She didn't say much, not because she couldn't, but because no one ever listened, until the day she saw a dog lying beneath the neighbor's broken window, eyes full of sorrow, fur matted with dust, and a scar that looked almost human. Welcome to Saved by Tales. Before we dive into this powerful story of forgotten bonds and quiet rescue, tell me, do you believe animals can carry memories like we do? Drop your first animal's name in the comments and hit like, share and subscribe if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered. The house on the corner of Alder Street had stood empty for years. Most of the neighbors said it should have been torn down after the fire. Its windows were blackened from smoke, its porch sagging from rot. Weeds grew through the cracks in its foundation, and even the bravest of the local boys wouldn't dare go near it after dark. But 7-year-old June Whitaker wasn't like the other kids. June had always been a watcher. While others shouted and played in the neighborhood cul-de-sac, she sat cross-legged by her bedroom window, notebook in hand, sketching the world in silence. She rarely spoke, unless it was to her mother or the small ceramic bird she kept on her nightstand. Most assumed she was shy, but truthfully, she had simply learned that her voice didn't carry the same weight as others. Her father had left when she was 3. Her mother worked double shifts at the diner to make ends meet. And in the quiet spaces of their small rented home, June had grown accustomed to filling the emptiness with her own thoughts. So when she saw the dog beneath the burned-out house for the first time, she didn't scream or run. She simply watched. It was a cool September evening when she noticed him, curled beneath the broken window of the old Thompson place. He didn't move much, just lay there, body curled against the cracked brick wall, head resting on paws that looked too large for his frame. His fur was a tangle of greys and browns, knotted with burrs and soot, but what struck June most were his eyes. Amber, sharp, and so deeply sad it made her chest tighten. She drew him, every detail. Over the next few days, he returned to the same spot at the same time, around dusk, just as the shadows began to stretch across the street. And every evening, June sat by her window and watched him. He never barked, never chased squirrels, never begged. He just waited. One evening, unable to hold back her curiosity any longer, June tiptoed downstairs and slipped out the side door while her mother was folding laundry in the next room. The air smelled of damp earth and chimney smoke as she crossed the street, sneakers crunching against gravel. She approached slowly. The dog lifted his head. They stared at each other. "I saw you," June whispered. Every day. The dog didn't move. He didn't growl or flinch, only watched her with those sorrowful eyes, head tilted slightly to one side. June crouched down, careful not to get too close. "Are you lost?" Still no sound. She noticed a thin red scar running down the side of his neck, partially hidden by matted fur. It looked old. He wore no collar. "I think you used to live here," she murmured. "Didn't you?" For a moment, the dog's eyes flicked toward the blackened window above him, then back to her. "I won't tell," June said. That night, she left a slice of ham on a paper plate beside the steps of the old house. When she checked the next morning, the plate was empty, and so began their unspoken friendship. June named him Finch. She started visiting every evening. Sometimes she spoke, sometimes she simply sat beside him, a careful distance away, sharing bits of her dinner and sketching while he lay still. Finch never left the shadow of the ruined house. He didn't follow her home, didn't bark or whine. He was like a ghost tied to that place, gentle, quiet, patient. Her mother noticed the change. "You've been smiling more," she said one night over meatloaf. "Something good happen?" June shrugged, a small smile curling her lips. "Maybe," but that Friday evening, something different happened. June arrived at the usual time with a slice of turkey wrapped in foil, only to find Finch standing, ears pricked, body tense. He was staring through the slats of the fence that bordered the back of the property. "Finch," she called softly. He turned, eyes locking on hers for a second, then trotted toward the fence. A low growling sound escaped his throat. June followed slowly, heart thumping. She reached the back of the yard and peered through the fence. There, half buried beneath the roots of a collapsed tree, was a small metal box. Finch pawed at the dirt near it, whining. June dropped to her knees, fingers trembling as she cleared away the soil. The box was rusted, its hinges stiff, but she pried it open. Inside was a single photograph, faded, burned at the edges. a boy and a dog, standing on the porch of the same house. And the dog, it was Finch, only younger, cleaner, collar intact, standing beside a tall boy in a baseball jersey, both of them grinning. There was something scrawled on the back of the photo, Derek and Rocket, Summer 09. June stared at the name, Rocket, that was his real name. She looked at Finch Rocket, and whispered, "You're waiting for him, aren't you?" The dog sat beside her, eyes fixed on the photograph in her hand. Over the next week, June's obsession grew. She searched online for any mention of the old house, of fires, of people who had lived there before. Eventually, with the help of the town library's archives, she found an article from 2010. Teen dies in tragic house fire. Family dog presumed lost. The boy's name was Derek Reynolds. Age 15. T died of smoke inhalation when the house caught fire one October night. His parents had been out. The cause was never determined. The family moved away the following spring, and their dog Rocket was never found. Until now. June sat at the library computer for a long time, tears welling in her eyes. He had waited for 13 years. That night, she returned to the house, photo in her pocket. Rocket lay in his usual spot, but when he saw her, he stood. She knelt beside him. "She's gone," she whispered. "But I think he'd want you to come with me now." Rocket didn't move. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a new collar, soft blue, with a tag that read Rocket. "I got this for you." Slowly, carefully, she reached out and clipped it around his neck. Rocket leaned forward and nudged his head against her shoulder. For the first time, June wrapped her arms around him. "I'll wait for you now," she said. From that night on, Rocket slept on her porch. She followed her to school, waited by the gate, then walked her home. Neighbors whispered. Some were afraid, others were curious, but most just watched in awe at the quiet, watchful dog who never left her side. And in her heart, June knew she hadn't just rescued a dog, she had answered a promise that no one else had heard. It wasn't long before the stories started. They always do in small towns. By the second week, Rocket's name was on the lips of everyone from the butcher to the bus driver. That girl and her dog. That haunted house. Mott. You know, that thing used to live in the old Thompson place? But June didn't care. Neither did Rocket. He walked beside her, with the kind of quiet grace that made people pause. Not because he was threatening, no, he never bared his teeth or growled, but because there was something behind his eyes, something old, ancient, even. And June had changed too. Her teachers began to notice. "She's speaking more," Miss Gentry told her mother at the parent-teacher meeting. "More confident, more curious, almost radiant." At home, June started asking about the past, about places, about people. "Did you ever know the Reynolds family?" she asked one night, as her mom scrubbed dishes. Her mother hesitated. "Why do you ask?" "I found a photo," June said, "in the old house." Her mother didn't answer at first, just turned off the faucet and dried her hands slowly. "He knew Derek," she said finally. "He was a kind boy. Always brought that dog everywhere. We all thought he ran off when the fire happened. Guess we were wrong." June lowered her eyes. "He didn't run. He waited." Her mother looked at her. Really looked. "You believe that?" "I know it." Rocket became a fixture on Alder Street. Parents began letting their children walk closer, some even brave enough to pet his shaggy back. June, in turn, began drawing again. Only this time, it wasn't just her notebook. She posted sketches of Rocket online. She told his story, and something strange happened. People responded. One woman messaged her, saying she'd lost a dog in a similar fire years ago. A man from 3 towns over claimed to remember Derek and his dog from a baseball tournament. Another posted a photo of Derek and Rocket at a school fair. Each message was a piece of a larger puzzle, and June, for the first time in her life, felt like she was part of something bigger. But not everyone was happy. One evening, as June walked Rocket along the sidewalk near the local mechanic's shop, a man leaned out the door and sneered. "Should have put that mutt down when the fire ended. You keeping a ghost alive." June froze. Rocket stood tall beside her, unmoving. She swallowed hard. "He's not a ghost." The man laughed. "He's bad luck. Watch your back, little girl." June didn't reply. She didn't need to, because Rocket stepped forward, not aggressively, just enough that his shadow stretched past June's sneakers. His ears lifted, his eyes sharpened, and the man, despite himself, took a step back. It was later that same night when June heard the whispering outside her window. She cracked the blinds and spotted 3 older boys, probably high school age, lurking near the old house, laughing. One carried a backpack, another a flashlight, the third held something long and thin, a crowbar, maybe. They didn't see Rocket curled in the shadows, but June did. She rushed to throw on her coat and grab her flashlight, heart pounding like a war drum. By the time she reached the corner of the house, the boys were inside, clomping through the ruins, knocking over beams and prying at old boards. "Eve," she shouted. He turned, startled. One laughed. "What's this?" "The dog, girl. You can't be here. It's not safe. Neither are you," the tallest sneered. "Unless you want your dog hurt." He turned toward Rocket, who now stood in the doorway, head low, growl rising from deep within his chest. The boy swung the crowbar lazily. Rocket didn't flinch. He advanced. It happened fast. A flash of teeth, a shout. The crowbar clattered to the ground as the boy stumbled backward, falling into a heap of old ash and plaster. Rocket didn't attack. He didn't have to. He just stood between them, eyes burning with the kind of fury only betrayal can create. Ye boys ran, and June collapsed onto the steps trembling. Rocket padded over and sat beside her. She looked at him through teary eyes. "Why do you always protect me?" Rocket didn't answer, but he didn't need to, because somewhere deep in his amber eyes, she saw it again, that echo of a promise, that instinct to protect, that unshakable loyalty that had once bound him to a boy who never came home. Now it bound him to her. The next morning, Rocket was gone. June panicked, searched the street, the alley, the backyard. She asked neighbors, called the shelter, even checked the burned house. Nothing. 12 hours passed, then 24, then 3 days. June refused to eat. She barely spoke, and then on the 4th morning, there was a knock at the door. When her mother opened it, a man in a police uniform stood there. Behind him was a younger officer holding something wrapped in a brown towel. It was Rocket. His paw was bandaged. He looked thinner, exhausted, but alive. The officer knelt to place him gently on the floor, and Rocket limped forward, straight into June's arms. She clung to him like a lifeline. "He saved a girl," the officer explained. "We found him outside an abandoned trailer on Miller Road. A missing girl was inside. He stayed with her all night, barked until someone heard." June stared, stunned. "He led you there?" The officer nodded. "He's a good dog." By the end of the month, Rocket had become more than a legend. He was a hero. The mayor presented June with a certificate. Rocket was fitted with a custom collar. Local news did a segment. Her drawings appeared on the front page. But none of that mattered to June. What mattered was that he came back. That he always came back. One night, as she brushed his fur under the porch light, June whispered, "Do you still think about him?" Rocket blinked slowly. "I do," she said. "I think he'd be proud of you." She leaned close. "And I think he sent you to me." Rocket rested his head on her lap, and for the first time since the day they met, June sang, soft, off-key, but full of warmth. And Rocket slept, not just napping, not guarding, but truly, peacefully slept, as if for the first time in a long, long time, he had finally come home. It started with the shovel. June was weeding the side yard, coaxing little green sprouts from the crumbling soil behind the old Thompson house. Rocket sat a few feet away, tongue lolling as he kept half an eye on the road and half on her. She dug a little deeper than usual, sweat dripping from her brow. And then clink. Not a rock, not a rot. Metal. She pushed away more dirt, and found it a rusted tin lunchbox, its paint flaked, its hinges nearly gone. June glanced at Rocket, who had risen to his feet, ears alert. She opened the box. Inside were 3 Polaroid photos, faded but still intact. A boy, Derek, with Rocket, much younger, beside him. A woman, smiling from behind a picket fence. And the last one, a man in uniform, arm around a girl who looked strikingly like June's mother. At the bottom of the tin was a note, written in smudged pencil. "For whoever finds this, he didn't run. He went back to save the others. Don't believe what they said.
Mads June's hand trembled. It was a message, a hidden truth buried with the wind. She looked at Rocket. Did he really go back? She whispered. Rocket took a step forward and sat beside her, leaning into her shoulder. She knew what that meant. Yes. That night, June couldn't sleep. The photos burned in her mind, so she crept down the hall and into the kitchen where her mother sat, wrapped in a shawl, staring into a cup of untouched tea. I found something, June said. She slid the tin box across the table. Her mother stared at it for a long moment before lifting the lid. Silence stretched between them like wire. Finally, her mother spoke. That's my sister, she said, tapping the photo of the woman. And that man, that's our Uncle Henry. He served in Desert Storm. June blinked. You never told me. There's a lot I never told you, her mother said softly. Because I thought forgetting was easier. She looked up, eyes glassy. Derek wasn't just some boy. He was my cousin, my best friend. And yes, he ran back into the fire. But people said he was foolish, that he started it, that Rocket was dangerous. He wasn't. No, her mother agreed. He wasn't. June hesitated. Why didn't you say anything? Her mother exhaled. Because if I said it out loud, it made it real, and I wasn't ready to face that. She reached out and placed a hand over June's. But maybe, it's time. The next day June wrote a letter, not to a person, to the town. She printed out copies of the photos and the note, and attached her own drawing of Rocket, bold, noble, proud. Then she stapled them to the town bulletin board, left them at the library, the diner, even the church. No accusations, just the truth. He didn't run. He went back. The response came slowly. One by one, older residents began talking. An elderly man named Martin stopped her outside the grocery store. I was there, he said, voice brittle. I saw the smoke. I always felt guilty not helping. A woman who had moved away 20 years earlier sent an email with a scanned photo of Derek at a charity event. And then a retired firefighter, anonymous, mailed a letter. We were told to clear the scene. They said it was too dangerous. But we heard barking inside that house, long after the flames reached the roof. That dog, he didn't stop. June decided to act. She asked her school for permission to do a presentation, to tell Derek and Rocket's story. The principal hesitated at first. Are you sure this isn't too personal? She asked. June nodded. That's why it matters. So a week later, June stood in front of the auditorium, shaking, heart pounding, Rocket seated loyally at her feet. She told the story, of Derek, of the fire, of the tin box, and of the second chance Rocket gave her. She ended with this: sometimes we bury stories we're too scared to remember. But the truth doesn't stay buried. Not forever. Sometimes it has teeth, and sometimes it comes back home. The room was quiet, and then applause, thunderous, echoing applause. Rocket became more than a local legend after that. He was invited to ribbon cuttings, to parades. The mayor announced plans to refurbish the old Thompson house into a small memorial garden. June and Rocket were there the day the first rosebush was planted. She placed the tin box in a glass case under a plaque, in memory of Derek Reynolds and Rocket. He didn't run. He went back. But things weren't perfect. A week after the dedication, Rocket stopped it. He began limping again, even on his good days. The vet ran tests. There's old scar tissue, he said. Some damage we didn't catch before. His lungs aren't as strong. He's getting tired. June fought the tears. She asked, is he in pain? Some. But mostly, he's just slowing down. June made a decision. No more events. No more cameras. Just walks. Just quiet evenings. Just her and Rocket, curled on the porch swing, watching the sunset. She began writing a book, their book, each chapter told in simple words, with her drawings between the pages. She called it The Dog Who Waited. One chilly evening, as leaves danced down the street, June whispered, do you think he'll be there when it's your time? Rocket, now grayer than before, blinked slowly, and she smiled. Yeah, she said. Me too. She kissed the top of his head. And when I get there, tell him thank you for sending. Rocket gave a soft, tired woof, and June knew he understood. The air turned colder, the trees shedding their summer skin. October wrapped Alder Street in gold and grey, and with every passing day, Rocket slowed just a little more. June noticed it in the way he hesitated before stairs, in the way he no longer chased leaves as they tumbled down the road, in the way his eyes lingered just a few seconds longer on the setting sun. Still, he smiled, in the quiet way dogs do. Still, he walked beside her. But even June could no longer deny it. The end was coming. They made the most of each day. Every morning, June brewed tea, placed 2 mugs on the porch, one for herself and one filled with broth for Rocket. They sat together while the street woke, postmen shuffling, kids riding bikes, someone always waving at Rocket as they passed. And every night, they sat by the fire in her bedroom, Rocket's head resting on her lap as she read aloud from her growing manuscript. "You're the best part," she whispered once, fingers tangled in his coarse fur. "You're the beginning, middle, and end." Rocket sighed softly, tail tapping once. Then came the night when Rocket couldn't rise from the porch. June had to carry him inside. She tried to be strong, but as she tucked him into the blanket on her floor, she finally let the tears come. "I'm not ready," she whispered. "Please, not yet." Rocket looked up at her, those ancient amber eyes still full of calm, reassuring her. "Not yet, but soon." Word spread quickly the next day. By the afternoon, flowers began to appear on the steps, drawings, notes. One child left a squeaky toy, wrapped in tissue paper. An elderly woman placed a slice of ham on a paper plate, and June understood. The town that once whispered had begun to listen, to care, to remember. That evening, something incredible happened. The mayor called. They wanted to honor Rocket one last time, not with a parade, not with fanfare, but with light. So they did. At dusk, lanterns were placed up and down Older Street, tiny floating orbs, lit with candles, and tied with hand-drawn tags, each one bearing a word: loyalty, courage, second chances. June carried Rocket in her arms to the middle of the street. As the lights flickered to life, people stood quietly along the sidewalk. Some wept, some smiled. Rocket lifted his head. He saw it all, the faces, the lights, the love. That night, Rocket passed, peacefully, curled in June's arms, head pressed to her heartbeat. She held him long after he was gone. The next morning, a fog rolled through the street, thick and soft like a blanket of memory. June walked alone to the garden beside the old house, the one they'd turned into a memorial for Derek. She dug with her hands, not stopping for the cold, not caring about the mud under her nails. She placed Rocket's collar inside a small wooden box, along with a copy of her finished manuscript. Then she planted a new rosebush, right next to Derek's. "I hope you found him," she whispered. "I hope you're running again." Winter came. Snow fell quietly over the town. The garden froze over, but June kept walking. One day, she found a new dog at the edge of the woods, a young German shepherd, all legs and ears, shivering beneath a tree. It looked up at her, with eyes too familiar to ignore. Not the same, not Rocket, but something echoed there. She knelt, held out her hand. The dog came, and June smiled through her tears. "I guess he sent you too." Years later, June's book, The Dog Who Waited, would be read in classrooms, quoted in sermons, passed from child to child like a secret map to healing. People came from other towns to visit the memorial garden, and every so often someone would sit beside the roses and swear they heard footsteps, soft padded circling close, or felt a warmth on their shoulder, or found a single paw print in the soil, even when it hadn't rained. They said it was Rocket, still watching, still waiting, still watching, still waiting, still keeping his promise.